So what is non-for-profit? Non-for-profit is a type of corporation, and they have key distinctions with that. No dividends, you have to do good, public good, governed by a board, and the keystone of civil society. Something that I didn't know when I started non-for-profit, I thought it was just a name. But actually, according to the IRS, your non-for-profit has to abide by certain governing rules, and one of them was the public good. For example, I can't have a retail store and say, oh, it's not-for-profit, without it meeting the guidelines for the IRS. It has to meet their specific indications, doing good for the public, and other things. As you go along with your journey, you'll find out that the IRS, they're very specific as to why and how you're going to get approved as a nonprofit organization. So there are two types of non-for-profit. It combines with the state corporation, and then also there's the federal tax-exempt status, which is the 501c3. Now, there are many types of non-for-profit entities, and tonight I'm just going to speak about the 501c3. But there are other varying types of non-for-profit organizations that you can delve into as well. Okay, so what are advantages to being a nonprofit? When you file your corporation, you have a choice. You could do corporation of limited liability, perpetual existence. Actually, a lot of people don't know this. You could offer employee benefits, like for your board members, your volunteers. A lot of people have the misconception that as a nonprofit portion means no finances or having actual access to funds. But once your company starts to make money, where you can give your board members or your volunteers a stipend or something for that, it doesn't mean that you have to run broke the entire existence of the corporation. It just means that you are doing something different. You have the tax exempts from the IRS than a for-profit corporation. So non-for-profit doesn't mean you have to always run on a shoestring budget, and all the fundraising money that you have to get rid of and disperse out into the community without taking some of the funds, putting it back into your business. That's not what non-for-profit means, because it is a business. Non-for-profit is a business. It takes just as much money to form a non-for-profit and run a daily business as it does with a for-profit. When you file your nonprofit paperwork, some things are going to be required, and I would suggest, and I have some information, some organizations that can help you through that process. But one of the most important things is that they're going to want to see the IRS as your vision and your clear mission, because that helps them to determine if you meet the guidelines as far as being a nonprofit organization. Planning. Lots of planning. Some things you have to think about, which I thought about, but not too much until I was able to get a mentor to assist me, is, like I said earlier, it's a business. It's not, a club where everyone just has all and, you think there's not going to be a lot of work involved. It is a business. So you have to have that mind frame or frame of mind to run your non-for-profit as a business. I do know a lot of people start off as a hobby, but once you delve into the nonprofit world, do not mistake for saying that it's something that you do part-time and it's half-heartedly done. Treat it as a full-fledged business. Start convening your board and supporters. I struggled on that. I wanted all my family members to be board members, but I found out that cannot happen. You have what the IRS, what they look for is, when you start small, is a minimum of 3 board members. Only 1 can be a family member. Some key points. Incorporating as a non-for-profit does not mean you're automatically going to be approved by the IRS as a 501c3. Just incorporating does not alone make a non-for-profit. There are some other steps that are required and mandatory in order for you to become a full-fledged non-for-profit and benefit from the tax deductions and all the wonderful services that they give you. To successfully obtain 501(c)(3) status, an organization must be able to show a defined charitable purpose, and I struggled with that. The structure ensures that the organization benefits the public, must benefit the public, absolutely no question about it, and not the employees or the owners of the organization. One of the things you need to do is file Article of Incorporation. And you do that through the Florida Department of State Division of Corporations. And what that is the Article of Incorporation is sort of like the birth certificate or the birth of your company. And it very specific. It wants to know who the company is, who's the registered agent, the address of all the incorporators, the board members, if you're going to be incorporated, LLC, and then they ask you to sign a statement of dissolution. So that means that they want to know when you dissolve your company, you have to notify them. And then every year, you also have to file a filing report with them as well. But to file the Articles of Incorporation, the filing fee is $70 at this time. You can go to that www.sunbiz.org to get more information. And it's pretty easy. I believe everything's electronic now. So you have to go onto their website, file, you can pay electronically, file electronically, so they make it pretty seamless now. The other thing that's very important that you will receive is an employee identification number, and that's very important. That's sort of like the Social Security number for your non-for-profit organization, and you use that for almost everything. One of the things you use is to identify your company. When you file your taxes, they're going to ask you for that. Some of the great things you do is when you're shopping or you go to order supplies or you work with your vendor or order something, that's going to be your tax ID information for the non-for-profit. And then also, in addition to that, there's no charge for that. The application Form 1023, it is a lengthy application. It's quite thick. And they ask for, of course, your articles of, the application process will kind of walk you through with all documents that you need to submit in order to have the IRS process that. And some of the things are the first page, you have to have your Articles of Incorporation, your employee ID number, your finances for, if you're starting off brand new, you have to have, they want to see 3 years worth of financial reports. Now, when I started, I didn't have 3 years because I just started. But what they want is a projected 3 years, just project what it is. So pretty much, my numbers were very low. And also a thing to tell you is that for myself starting off new, I didn't have 3 years worth of financial information to give them. So my numbers were pretty low, like around, on the low side, I think I did like $500 for fundraising and things like that, but someone assisted me. But in addition to that, the lower your financial projection is going to be, or you show them, the filing fee is going to be low as well. In addition to that, filing now takes a very long time. When I started, typically, I think it was, I was told 3 months. It actually took 10 months. And that's with me calling and bugging them every day. Everything was fine. It was just they're really inundated with applications. And if you can call on a daily basis or weekly to kind of check the status, but they're right now at this time, they are really backlogged. Once you are approved as a 501c3, you will receive something called a determination letter, which what you were asking for. That's after the paperwork has been processed and you've been approved, but you get this letter, and I was kind of disappointed. I was thinking it had like stars and stripes on it, and it was just this glorious gold sealed letter, and it's not. It's just a nondescript letter stating that you've been approved as a 501c3. I'd already picked out a frame and everything for it, and it wasn't very impressive. But nevertheless, you need that letter. That's everything. You need that for everything, for grants. Typically, when you want to apply for a grant, they won't take you seriously until they see that you have that. So that's the goal, to get that letter. Okay, so annual reporting requirements, that scares me, because that means I have to really get serious. But basically, what it is when you file a non-for-profit organization, that means you're legal. So therefore, the Florida Department of State of Corporations and the IRS, they're going to ask you for this information. So, as I said, while you're getting your paperwork approved, any fundraising that you do, keep documentation of that. Especially if you're asking for money from others, write them a receipt, keep the documentation, keep the dates, what the fundraiser was for, because you're going to have to, when you file at the end of the year, once you are approved, you're going to have to submit that information. So there's a $61.50 filing fee, and to answer your question clearly, this is going to be the annual filing. Like every year, in order to keep your business open, you have to file that filing fee. If you don't, you'll get a fine, and then the company will be dissolved. They'll ask you to dissolve the company, the corporation. Okay, the instructions are it has to be a minimum of 3 people. Like, can't be 2. It has to be, the guidelines are a minimum of 3 people, but of those 3 people or 10 people, there's a certain percentage that cannot be family. Like, for example, if you have 7 people and they like odd numbers, so if you have 7 people and 6 of those are family members, because they ask you, when you file your paperwork or your articles of incorporation and one other document, they ask you your relationship to this individual, and you also have to give some additional information like what do they do for a living, how long you've known them, and when they see, mom, dad, cousin, uncle, sister, brother, that's like a red flag. And it specifically states when you do read the paperwork that family members cannot be any more a certain percentage of your board of directors. They feel that it's an uneven board, an uneven vote. I don't know how all of you are going to set up your governing board. However, but at some point, you're going to take votes, right? Or you're going to have to vote for something or agree or disagree on something. And if most of your persons on the board are family members, that's kind of like a lopsided vote, especially to the persons that are not related to you that work for you or are on the board. So they want to try to avoid that. I could tell you sometimes that might be unavoidable, but I could tell you for myself, every board members, they understand my mission. I make them read it and they sign that they understand what it is. And of course, you're going to have attrition. People are going to leave. Can't stop them from leaving. And sometimes that's unavoidable, but I would say what you do is when you know or you make your selection for board members, don't take it lightly. Sort of like a job interview or finding your soulmate or getting married. I mean, really, seriously, take it that serious. Don't just haphazardly pick someone just so you can make the number of a board member. Think very seriously about it. Now, this is towards the end of the presentation, and just basically just telling you that make sure that you know everything there is to know as far as your nonprofit organization. Know when to file your reports. Know when the filings are completed. Keep track of that, because the IRS, they're not going to send you anything until it's too late. But when you file your annual reports with the state of Florida, they do send you a letter in the mail to let you know your annual filings are due. They give you quite a bit of a notice, and just make sure that you do that. Okay, so this concludes our presentation. I hope all of this information was helpful to you, and thank you so very much for your time. Thank you.